Well, welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. Glad to have you join us tonight. Well, I have a couple of bits and pieces of things. I have a small piece of salmon. I have a few shrimp. Neither one is enough for a meal on its own, so I'm gonna put them together and we're gonna make a little sauce to go with it. To make it a little special. And I'm starting out a couple hours ahead of dinner time, actually. Many good things start ahead. And I have three, I actually have four, but I'm going to use one for a garnish. Pretty nice oranges. And I'm going to squeeze the juice out. Now this is a new juicer for me. We're going to see if I can use it. After cooking for 50 years, I finally decided I needed a mandolin, and this little juicer came with it. So I'm going to use it. And I do want some of the pulp in this, but I don't want any of the seeds. I found that I didn't have a bowl that exactly fit my new juicer. Ooh, these are nice and juicy oranges. I have a confession. This is my first juicer, or the first manual juicer that I've ever had. I just always roll them and squeeze them. And to be really honest with you, when I get done with this, I may go back to rolling and squeezing. It's funny how many things we think we have to have that we really don't. I bought the mandolin to cut very thin potatoes and then realized I could do it just fine with a knife. But I do have the mandolin and I will make use of it. I did do some onions on it. And that was nice because cutting onions can be very irritating process. Okay. We've got some juice there. I want to get a little bit of the pulp. I think that's probably enough. Whoops. So that's a good bit of juice. That'll be plenty of juice for our sauce. Probably more than we need. Let me move this all to the side. And I have here a nice piece of ginger. It's kind of funny shaped, so I'm going to cut it. I don't buy a lot of ginger. I love it, but I don't buy a lot of it. Because you know, this costs as much as meat. And you don't use nearly as much. But and ginger, you can peel it with a knife, you can peel it with a peeler. But if you peel it with a spoon, you actually use less of it. You lose less of it. And I'll go ahead and peel a big piece, even though I'm not going to use it all. And then I'll stick what's left over in a little tiny bag and put it in the freezer. Get it everywhere. Okay, gonna throw that away. Wash this, I'll be right back. I'm gonna use about this much. I'm gonna slice it very, very thin. And maybe I should get out my mandolin. And most of this is gonna actually not go into the dish. I'm gonna let it sit in the orange juice. And the acid from the orange juice will soften the ginger. And get the flavor all through it. I'm just going to set this in the fridge a couple hours, and then I'll get on with the rest of our dinner. Well, here is my nice little piece of salmon. It's kind of small. I had salmon for Thanksgiving, and I cut that piece off and put it in the freezer. And with just a couple of shrimp, this is going to make a good dinner for Fred and me. And as with any other meat, before we start the preparation, we want to dry it. And I'll move it to the here. So I have several things out. I'm going to add about, and this truly is about, a tablespoonful of brown sugar. And just for those of you who don't know, that is artificial brown sugar for me. I don't eat sugar at all. And a tablespoonful, tablespoonful of kosher salt. There's my timer. Then just a pinch of dry mustard, about 1/8 of a teaspoonful. And I'm going to sprinkle in some thyme. Now, you know, I'm all about making do. If I had some dill, I would be putting dill in here. But I don't have dill. What I have is thyme. I have other things. I have rosemary, I have sage, but I think I'm going to try thyme on this. If you have dill, use dill. It's really salmon and dill. They just go right together. Give that a little mix. Pull my little piece of salmon out. And let's oil it just a little bit, because we want our salt and sugar mixture to hold on. Not much. And then let's sprinkle it on. And sprinkle it on pretty generously. Both sides. And I'm going to leave that skin on. Then we're going to set this aside, and I'll meet you over at the stove. Okay, I have half a stick of butter here, and I'm only going to leave, I'm going to melt about half of that to start with. We'll use the rest of it. And I want to get it good and hot. And I'm going to put the equivalent of about 2 cloves of garlic in with the butter. And I want to let it get a little toasty. If you'll notice, I used a little bit smaller pan. This is, I think it's a 9-inch instead of a 10 or a 12. Because I'm cooking a small piece and I try to match the pan size to the size of the meat that you're cooking. Now I've reserved that little bit of extra butter, and I'm going to put my salmon in with the presentation side down. Got my heat up fairly high. I'm going to let that brown for about 3 minutes, and then I'll be back. Okie doke. We have a little steaming going on here. A little smoking. I did turn the heat down just a little bit. So we have some nice browning on that side. Now this is not done. It's been about 2 to 3 minutes on each side. I'm going to set it aside for now. And I have a few shrimp here. I'll put the rest of my butter in. These are peeled and deveined. In the meantime, I've fished almost all of the ginger out of this orange juice. And I did these separately because they take a different amount of time. And nobody wants overcooked shrimp. So I'm going to cook those about 2/3 of the way done. And take them out also. Okay, let's take our pretty shrimp out. Not quite done. Almost done. And in our pan juices here, I'm going to add our orange sauce. Turn my heat up because I want it to reduce a little. And I'm going to deglaze the pan. Now what all we have in here when you count the fond, and I did consult with the members of the group on this, is we have the brown sugar, or in our case artificial brown sugar, the salt, the butter, the garlic, the thyme, and the ginger. And that lovely orange juice. I'm going to turn this down fairly low because it's all cooking together. And I'm going to add my salmon, not my shrimp. Back. Put a lid on, and I'm going to let it cook for about 3 or 4 minutes. I'll be right back. Okay, it's been 3 minutes. We're going to check it for doneness. Okay, it's about done. In go our shrimp for 1 more minute. And then I'll plate this up for you. Well, here you go. This is salmon, pan-seared and then braised in an orange ginger sauce. I'm going to put just a little of that. This is a plate full of food. It's a serving for 2 or 3. But for right now, this one is going to taste it. Nice and done. Flaky. And you know, The orange ginger sauce is pretty delicate. Just a tiny little bit of, I'm sorry, I have to have another bite. Tiny little bit of the garlic. The salt and the brown sugar. It's not too salty. And let's try. I'm sorry, it's just Fred and me. It's okay if I double dip with a fork. This lovely shrimp. Traditionally, you would do this with lemon. I wanted to try the orange for the extra sweetness. And boy, I was right. I hope you give this a try. This is so good. We're going to serve it with a Hasselback potato, and we're going to chow down. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us. Hope to see you again tomorrow.